The wind crawled across the trenches like a tired ghost, carrying with it the stench of mud, rusting metal, and the breath of men who hadn't slept in days. Corporal Elias Ward sat with his back against the cold sandbags, his fingers trembling around a tin cup of bitter coffee that had long gone cold. The sky above him was a dirty, grey blanket, silent, heavy, and cruel. It was the kind of sky that didn't promise rain. It promised death. Across from him, leaning against the same trench wall, sat the only man he trusted with his life, Samuel Hale, sharpshooter, troublemaker, and Elias's closest friend for the past 2 years. Samuel had a grin that didn't belong in a battlefield, sharp eyes that missed nothing, and a strange talent for making death wait just a little longer. But today, even Samuel wasn't smiling, because today, somewhere out there beyond the shattered trees and broken wire, sat a German sniper who had already claimed 7 men in their battalion, and seemed to be waiting for number 8. For 2 days, the men called him the Ghost at Dawn. No one had seen him, no one heard him, no mistakes, no mercy, just one perfect bullet every time. Elias lifted his eyes to the parapet, the place where a man's head should never rise. The trench boards still carried dried blood marks, evidence of yesterday's attempt to retrieve a wounded courier. A bullet had caught him before his second foot touched the ladder. They dragged him back by his boots, dead before he even hit the floor. Elias swallowed hard and forced his breathing to settle. "He's still out there, Sam." Samuel nodded slowly, rubbing dirt between his fingers. "Yeah, and he won't stop till he gets another one. Men like him, they don't sleep until the job is done." Elias looked at him. "Reminds me of someone." Samuel chuckled under his breath. "I'm charming. That's the difference." A small laugh escaped Elias, brief, weak, but real. "Charming isn't the word I'd use." "Well," Samuel shrugged, "I don't see you shooting apples off fence posts at 300 yards. Elias shook his head. "I don't see you keeping your mouth shut either." Their banter felt like the last warm blanket in the middle of winter. They needed it. They clung to it. Because daylight was rising, and with every inch the sun climbed, the sniper's chances of killing someone climbed with it. As if on cue, a distant crack split the morning air. All conversation died. Every soldier froze, even the ones who had been pretending to be brave. The sound was sharp, metallic, light as a finger snap, but deadly as a blade. Elias pressed his back to the mud wall, heart pounding in his throat. "He didn't hit anyone," a private whispered. "For now," Samuel murmured. A runner sprinted down the trench, boots splashing through puddles. "All units commander's orders. No one shows their head above the line. Enemy, sniper still active." Thanks for the reminder, Elias thought bitterly. As the runner disappeared, Samuel nudged Elias with his elbow. "Come on, Captain wants us." Elias frowned. "Why us?" "Because," Samuel sighed, "we're idiots who know how to shoot." The captain's plan, Captain Rowan, stood inside a small dugout lit by a flickering oil lamp. His face looked older than it had last week. War had a way of stealing years quickly. Spread on the table was a map and something else. something that looked like a human head. Elias blinked. "What is that?" Samuel leaned forward and whistled softly. "Well, that's unsettling." The captain rubbed his forehead. "Gentlemen, meet our new soldier. He's made of paper mache, and today he might save a dozen real men." Elias stared. The head was strangely realistic. Carefully shaped cheekbones, painted eyes, even tiny strokes of color that mimicked stubble. It was eerie, beautifully crafted, wrong, and right at the same time. Captain Rowan pointed at it. "Our camouflage unit delivered this last night. We're using it today." Samuel raised a brow. "A dummy head to bait the ghost?" Rowan nodded. "We need to locate him. If we can get him to shoot at this," he tapped the head, "we might trace the line of the bullet." Elias felt his stomach tighten. "And who's lifting that thing, sir?" Rowan looked straight at him. Elias's blood ran cold. "Ward," the captain said quietly. "You're steady, you're calm, and Hale," he turned to Samuel, "you're the one who can spot where the shot comes from." Samuel's face hardened. "Sir, with all due respect, that's a bloody risky." "It's war," Rowan replied softly. "Everything is risky." Silence fell. The captain took a deep breath. "We've lost too many men to this ghost. If we don't stop him, he'll bleed us dry." Elias and Samuel exchanged a look. They didn't need to speak. They never did. Elias finally nodded. "We'll do it," Samuel muttered. "I hate you, Elias." "Likewise." They both stepped forward. Preparing the head back in the trench, they examined the dummy again. It looked even more real under daylight. Too real. Elias ran his thumb over its cheek. "You look more alive than me," he whispered to it. Samuel held a thin metal rod, a long stick that would be used to raise the decoy above the parapet. "You hold the stick," Elias said. Samuel glared. "No, you hold the stick. I'll watch through the scope. Sam, if you watch, you'll be the first one shot. That sniper watches for scopes." Samuel clenched his jaw. "That's why I'm better at it." The argument simmered for a moment, but neither man raised their voice. They never did. It was always this quiet tug of war, each trying to protect the other. Finally, Elias sighed. "Fine. I'll lift it. You look." Samuel's eyes softened with something Elias rarely saw. Fear. "Don't die, all right?" Elias smiled weakly. "Not today. Today would be inconvenient. Shut up. The moment." They crawled to the forward trench position. Soldiers moved aside, eyes wide with hope and dread. Elias gripped the rod. His heartbeat echoed in his ears. The world narrowed to the mud beneath him, the cold metal in his hands, and the eerie silence that settled before a sniper strike. Samuel crouched beside him, scope ready, every muscle wound tight. "On 3, Elias whispered. 1, 2. A bead of sweat slid down Elias's temple. 3. He lifted the dummy head, just a few inches above the parapet. Enough to be seen, not enough to be safe. Every breath in the trench stopped. Every thought froze. The sky itself seemed to hold still. Seconds passed. Long, stretched, agonizing seconds. Nothing. Elias exhaled shakily. Maybe he's not. Crack. The air shattered. The rod jerked violently. The dummy head snapped backward. Hit! Elias dropped flat, heart hammering. Dirt exploded beside him. Samuel's eye remained glued to the scope. I saw it. I saw it just enough. Another bullet tore past, striking the sandbags near Samuel's shoulder. He ducked, breathing hard. Elias grabbed him. Sam. I'm fine, Samuel growled. But he's not far. I think I... A third shot whispered past, so close Elias felt the heat of it. Samuel winced. He's zeroing in on us. Then we move, Elias said quietly. They scrambled back, boots sliding in mud, men pulling them into cover as another shot cracked behind them. But Samuel wasn't smiling anymore. He was staring at the ground, breathing shallowly. Elias grabbed his arm. Sam, what is it? Samuel spread his fingers. Blood. Not much, but enough. A small graze on his upper arm, clean, sharp, and burning. You're hit, Elias whispered. Samuel forced a grin, just a kiss. He missed. But Elias's voice dropped. No, he said. That was a warning. Before Samuel could answer, Captain Rowan arrived. Report. Samuel swallowed hard. Sir, I have his direction. Rough coordinates. He's in a tree line about 300 yards out. Rowan stiffened. Good. We'll get artillery on him. No, Elias said quietly. Both men looked at him. Elias's eyes were dark, steady, resolute. He tried to take Sam's head off. I'll finish this myself, Samuel snapped. The hell you will. Elias turned to him soft, grim, unshakable. He won't stop, Sam. Not until he gets one of us. And I'm not letting that happen. Samuel's voice cracked something rare, something raw. Elias, don't. Elias placed a hand on his shoulder. Not today, remember? Samuel swallowed hard. And for the first time since the war began, Samuel Hale had nothing to say. The trench felt different after the shot that grazed Samuel quieter, heavier, as if the mud itself knew the war had just become personal. Men watched the two of them with a mix of admiration and fear, not because Elias had lifted a dummy head into the open, but because he was planning to go back out there. Captain Rowan stood before Elias, jaw tight. Corporal Ward, I can't authorize you to hunt down an enemy sniper alone. Elias didn't blink. With respect, sir, he's not just an enemy sniper. He's hunting us. And he won't stop not until Samuel or I is dead. Samuel hissed. Elias. But Elias raised a hand. This is my call. Samuel fell quiet, eyes dark with frustration and worry. Rowan exhaled slowly. What's your plan? Elias pointed at the map. Sam saw the angle of the shot. The rounds are coming from a cluster of broken birch trees, this area. His finger circled a narrow stretch behind enemy lines, shaded with dense brush and pockets of shadow. Rowan studied him. That's nearly no man's land. Elias nodded. Almost. Samuel stepped forward, voice low and dangerous. If you send him out there alone, you're sending him to die. Elias didn't look away from the captain. With Sam wounded, I'm the better shot today. That sniper counts on us being afraid to move. I need to use that against him." Rowan crossed his arms. "So you intend to what? Crawl out there under cover of darkness? Engage him at close range?" "No," Elias said. "I'm going in daylight." Samuel froze. "Have you lost your mind?" Elias's voice was calm. Too calm. He expects fear. He expects patience. He expects nightfall. He won't expect someone moving when he believes he already won. The captain stared at him, measuring his courage against his sanity. Samuel grabbed Elias's sleeve, pulling him aside. "Look at me! Look at me, Elias!" His voice shook. "You walk out there. I won't be able to cover you. I won't be able to save you." Elias smiled faintly. "You already did." "What the hell does that mean?" Elias lowered his eyes to Samuel's injured arm. "That bullet had my name on it. You were just standing where I should have been." Samuel clenched his jaw. "Don't you dare turn this into some kind of repayment." "It's not," Elias said softly. "It's the right thing." Samuel opened his mouth to argue, but nothing came out. There were no words left, only fear. Rowan finally spoke. "You'll need a spotter." Samuel immediately stepped forward. "I'll go." "No," Rowan snapped. "You're wounded." Elias nodded in agreement. "I need you alive, Sam." Samuel's voice trembled. "We both know you won't come back." Elias placed a hand on his shoulder. "I'll come back, I promise." It was a lie they both recognized. Rowan called over another soldier, Private Lorne, quiet, sharp-eyed, newly arrived. He wasn't Samuel, but he was capable. "You'll go with them," Rowan said. "No direct engagement. Just keep watch." Lorne nodded nervously. Samuel looked like he wanted to punch a wall. Elias gathered his rifle, checked the chamber, adjusted the faded cloth wrapped around the stock. It wasn't a special rifle, not like the Germans. No scope, no fine-tuning, but it had never failed him. Samuel watched with clenched fists. "If you see the flash, don't hesitate. I never do. And if you don't see the flash, I trust my gut." Samuel swallowed, voice breaking. "You're not a ghost, Elias." Elias smiled softly. "Not yet." Crossing the line. The moment Elias climbed out of the trench, the air changed. The world grew sharp, bright, painfully real. No man's land stretched before him like a graveyard waiting patiently. Shattered helmets, twisted metal, scraps of uniforms, silent reminders that bravery had a price. He crouched low, moving through mud and cratered earth. Lorne followed behind him, keeping his head down but his eyes wide open. Every few seconds, Elias paused, listened, breathed. Samuel watched through a borrowed periscope, heart pounding against his ribs. His wounded arm shook slightly, but he kept the lens still, tracking Elias's shadow. The birch trees stood in the distance, thin, pale trunks like bones reaching up through the earth. "A perfect hideout for a sniper," Elias whispered to Lorne. "Keep your profile low. Follow my footsteps. No sudden moves unless I say." Lorne nodded shakily. They crawled forward. 5 feet, 10, 20. The silence was crushing. Samuel's voice echoed in his memory. "If you see the flash, don't hesitate." But there was no flash, only the wind brushing through broken grass and the distant groans of an endless war. Elias's heartbeat thudded in his ears. Sweat trickled down his spine. He forced himself to breathe slowly, evenly, like Samuel taught him when they first became partners. Steady hands, Samuel always said, guiding him at the makeshift shooting range. The bullet listens to your heartbeat more than your aim. Elias took another step, then another. Lorne whispered, "Sir, I think he sees us." Elias didn't look back. "Don't think, just follow." Lorne swallowed. They moved closer to the tree line. 50 yards now. 35. Lorne whispered again. "Sir, maybe we should go back. This is too exposed." Crack! The ground beside Lorne's knee erupted. He froze. Elias grabbed him, pulling him behind a chunk of broken metal. "Stay low." Lorne was pale. He almost. Crack! Another bullet struck the metal plate, inches from Elias's shoulder. "He's close," Elias muttered. "Closer than we thought." Lorne trembled. "Sir, I can't move." "Lorne, look at me." The private's eyes met his. "You're not dying today. Not on my watch." Lorne swallowed hard. "Stay here," Elias said. "Cover your head. Don't move unless I tell you." "Where are you going?" Elias's voice dropped. "To end this." The hunt Elias slipped away from Lorne and began crawling toward the birch trees, moving with slow, deliberate precision. Every shift of his body was controlled. Every muscle obeyed. Samuel watched him through the periscope, whispering under his breath, "Come on, Elias. Stay small. Stay breathing." Elias's mind sharpened into instinct. He scanned every shadow, every broken branch, every flicker of movement. The sniper wasn't firing wildly. He was firing warnings, herding Elias like prey. That meant he knew Elias was coming. Good. Elias moved closer, using a fallen beam as cover. Not enough to hide completely, but enough to make shooting him harder. Another shot rang out. Crack! The bark of a birch tree exploded not far from his head. Elias felt splinters cut his cheek. He didn't flinch. He adjusted his rifle, peered through iron sights, searched for the faintest glint, the slightest motion. Nothing. The sniper was good. Too good. For a moment, Elias thought maybe this truly was the end. Then he saw it. A flicker. A shimmer of light off metal, deep in the brush, between two fallen branches. A scope. Elias inhaled, steadied his breath. Samuel's words guided him. "The bullet listens to your heartbeat." He waited for the sniper to aim, waited for the exact moment the glint reappeared. 3, 2, 1 crack. 2 shots exploded at the same time. Elias's rifle jerked back. A burning pain shot across his ribcage. He fell sideways into the mud, gasping, clutching his side. Blood, not pouring, just leaking. A shallow wound. The sniper's bullet had grazed him. But Elias had fired first. Or at least, at the same time. He forced himself up, vision blurring. He aimed again at the brush and saw a figure slump sideways. He hit him. He actually hit him. Lorne shouted from behind. "Sir, are you alive?" "Still breathing," Elias groaned. Samuel, watching from the trench, choked out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. "You idiot! You beautiful idiot!" Elias pressed a hand against his side. "Lorne, move up! Keep your head down!" The young private scrambled to his position, terrified but obeying. Elias forced himself to crawl toward the fallen sniper. Every inch felt like fire. His vision pulsed with each heartbeat. When he reached the brush, he lifted his rifle, then froze. The German sniper lay on his back, eyes open but glassy. A young man, barely older than Samuel, barely older than Elias. His lips quivered with his last breath, whispering something soft in German, a name, a prayer, a goodbye. Elias lowered his rifle. The fight was gone. "The war was still here," he whispered. "It's over." But it wasn't, because when he turned to Lorne, ready to begin the slow crawl home, he realized the German sniper wasn't alone. A second rifle lay partially buried beside him. A second hideout. A second shooter. Elias's stomach dropped. No. Before he could speak, crack. But the bullet didn't hit Elias. It hit someone else. Someone who shouldn't have been there. Someone who disobeyed every order. Someone who ran into hell without hesitation. Elias's eyes widened. No, 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 no. Because the man falling to his knees in the mud was Samuel. The sun had barely risen over Fort Brenton when Ethan stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the same uniform he had worn 1,000 times. But somehow today it felt heavier, not because of the fabric, not because of the rank on his chest, but because today was the day he had to tell Lily the truth, the one he'd been avoiding for weeks. Orders had come. Deployment, not a short one, not a mild one. A classified mission, high risk, no guaranteed return date. And he still hadn't found the courage to say the words. He stared at his own reflection like it belonged to someone else, a soldier who could run into gunfire without hesitation, but who couldn't look the woman he loved in the eyes and tell her that he was leaving again. Ethan closed his eyes, inhaling deeply, remembering her smile, her warmth, the way she said his name when she was worried. That soft tone that always pulled him back from the darkness. "Today," he whispered to himself. "You have to do it today." He grabbed his keys and stepped out. Lily had always loved mornings, the kind where sunlight poured through the windows and the world felt calm for a few minutes before reality crept in. But today, she felt uneasy. She stood in the kitchen, stirring her coffee, staring at the front door as if it could give her answers. Ethan had been quiet lately. Too quiet. The kind of quiet where soldiers hide things they don't know how to explain. She'd seen it before when her father deployed, when her brother didn't come home. Loss had a sound, and silence was always its first sign. The door opened. Ethan walked in. Lily's heart dipped. She didn't know why, but she already knew. He forced a smile. "Morning." She matched it, but it wasn't real. "Morning." He stood there awkwardly, like a guest in his own home. Lily finally said what she knew he couldn't. "You got orders." He froze. And that was the confirmation she needed. For a moment, neither of them moved. The world around them stayed painfully still. Ethan stepped closer, his voice soft. "I didn't know how to tell you." "I know," she whispered, her eyes already shining. "When?" "Next week." Her breath caught. "Next week? Ethan, that's nothing. That's no time. I didn't choose it." "I know you didn't," she said, tears forming. "But we never have time, do we?" They sat on the couch, and Lily leaned her head on his shoulder. The same shoulder that had carried wounded men, heavy packs, and burdens he never spoke about. "I thought maybe," she said quietly, "just once, we'd have a peaceful year." Ethan rested his chin on her head. "I wanted that too. More than anything." "What kind of mission is it?" "I can't say." She closed her eyes. "High risk?" He hesitated, and hesitation was an answer. Lily's voice cracked. "Just promise me one thing. Anything. Come back." Ethan swallowed hard. "I will do everything I can." She lifted her head and stared into his eyes. "That's not a promise." "I can't lie to you," Ethan said, his voice trembling for the first time. "Not you." Lily's hands cupped his face, her thumbs brushing away the guilt he carried. "Then promise me this instead. Don't give up. No matter how hard it gets, don't let the world take you from me." His throat tightened. He nodded slowly. "That I can promise." The week flew by like a blur. Every night they stayed up late talking, sitting in silence, memorizing each other. Because that's what military love really is. Memorizing the moments you're terrified of losing. One evening, Ethan found Lily sitting on the porch steps. She was smiling at the sunset, but there was sadness beneath it. "What are you thinking about?" Ethan asked. "Time," she whispered. "We get so little of it, and somehow we always waste the pieces we're given." He sat beside her. "We didn't waste anything," he said gently. "Every moment with you has mattered." She looked at him, eyes soft. "Ethan? Yeah? If anything happens to you, Lily, just listen," she said firmly. "If anything happens, don't let guilt be the last thing on your mind. You've already carried enough. Just know that you were loved. Deeply. And that's enough for a lifetime." Ethan's jaw tightened, emotion hitting deeper than any battlefield wound. "I'm coming back," he said quietly, "because you're home, and I'm not ready to lose home." On his last night before leaving, Lily handed him a small envelope. "What's this?" he asked. "Don't open it now. Open it when you need strength." He wanted to ask more, but she shook her head. "Just keep it safe." He slipped it into the inside pocket of his uniform close to his heart. The morning of his departure arrived too soon. The base buzzed with movement, soldiers loading gear, families clinging to their last minutes, radios crackling with orders. The same scene that happened 1,000 times but never got easier. Ethan held Lily's hands tightly. "I'll write," he said. "I'll wait," she whispered. He pressed his forehead to hers. "I love you." Lily's tears finally fell. "I love you more." He turned to leave, but Lily grabbed his arm one last time. "Ethan?" He looked back. "Whatever happens out there, Don't become someone you're not. Don't lose the softness you hide under all that armor. His chest ached. I'll come back the same man you fell in love with. I'll hold you to that. He walked toward the transport vehicle, his boots hitting the pavement like small heartbreaks. Lily stood there watching him, her hands shaking, her heart breaking in quiet pieces. When the vehicle doors closed, Ethan took a breath the kind soldiers take before stepping into another reality. And then they began to move. The base shrank behind him, and the world outside grew unfamiliar. He reached into his chest pocket and felt the envelope Lily had given him. He didn't open it, not yet, but he knew. Before this mission ended, he would need it, because something inside him whispered that this deployment would change everything. And not every soldier returns home the same. The desert was quiet in a way that felt unnatural, not peaceful, not calm, just quiet. The kind of quiet that pressed against your ears until your heartbeat was the only sound left. Ethan stepped out of the armored vehicle with his squad, the sun burning overhead like a merciless eye watching their every move. Another deployment, another mission, another unknown battlefield. But this one felt different from the moment they arrived. Ethan wasn't just carrying gear. He was carrying Lily's last look. Her trembling hands, her unfinished words, and that envelope tucked close to his chest like a second heartbeat. The squad moved through the abandoned outpost slowly, clearing each room. Dust coated the ground. Bullet holes scarred the walls. Everything screamed danger, even though the silence pretended otherwise. "What do you think, Sergeant?" Private Daniels whispered. Ethan scanned the area, instincts on full alert. Too quiet, eyes open, stay low, no mistakes. They pushed deeper. This outpost had gone dark 2 days earlier. The last transmission warned of enemy movement nearby. The team's job was simple on paper: locate, secure, extract intel, survive. But missions on paper never matched missions in reality. Hours passed, the heat shifted, shadows stretched, and the unsettling silence refused to break, until it did. A single shot cracked through the stillness. It wasn't aimed at them, not a threat, a signal. Ethan froze. Sniper. The team ducked behind rubble. Daniels whispered, "We're pinned?" "No, that shot wasn't to hit us," Ethan said. "It was to warn us we're being watched." The shot had come from far too far for anyone untrained. A real sniper, a patient one. Ethan's pulse steadied. His mind sharpened. This was familiar territory. "Everyone stay down," he ordered quietly. "No sudden movements." He pulled out his scope, scanned the ridge. Nothing. Whoever fired the shot was good. Too good. Daniels whispered shakily. "Sarge, you think he saw us?" Ethan nodded. He saw everything. The squad retreated into a damaged structure, old sandbags piled along the walls. Corporal Hayes exhaled. "This is bad. If there's one sniper, there may be more." Ethan leaned against the wall, thinking. He remembered the old stories he studied: trench warfare tactics, WWI deception, the way snipers used decoy heads to lure enemies into revealing themselves. Back then, one mistake meant death. It wasn't very different now. Hayes looked at him. "What's the plan?" Ethan closed his eyes briefly. "We wait and we watch." Night fell, bringing with it the cold. Ethan couldn't sleep. Not with a sniper out there. Not with Lily's voice echoing in his mind. "Come back to me. Don't lose who you are." He leaned against the wall, pulled the envelope from his pocket. He didn't open it yet, just held it. Sometimes strength didn't come from reading the words. Sometimes it came from knowing someone cared enough to write them. He returned it to his pocket as the team's radio crackled. Static. Then a voice. "Team Bravo, this is command. Be advised, intel confirms enemy has deployed elite marksmen in your sector. Proceed with extreme caution." Hayes stared at Ethan. "That explains the shot." But that was only part of the truth. Ethan knew the silence wasn't coincidence. Whoever was out there was waiting for something, or someone. And somehow, Ethan felt the weight of being that someone. The next morning, they continued their sweep. As they crossed a destroyed courtyard, Ethan caught a glint on the ridge. His instincts screamed. "Down!" he shouted. The shot hit a stone pillar, inches from Daniel's head. The squad dove behind cover. Hayes yelled, "He's targeting us." "No," Ethan said. "He's targeting me." "What makes you say that?" Ethan didn't answer, because he wasn't sure. It was just a feeling, a soldier's instinct born from years of combat. The sniper had waited until Ethan stepped forward. Not the others. Ethan whispered, "We're not dealing with a rookie. This is calculated." Hayes swore under his breath. "So what do we do now?" Ethan scanned the area, thinking, planning, remembering the old tricks soldiers once used to survive invisible enemies. Decoys, timing, patience. A plan formed. "We draw him out," Ethan said. Daniel's eyes widened. "Sir, with what?" "We don't have any. We make one." They found a damaged mannequin torso in the rubble of an old checkpoint shed. Ethan tore off cloth, shaped it, crafted a makeshift dummy head using mud, sandbags, and a torn helmet. Hayes stared. "Sarge, that's insane." "It worked a century ago," Ethan said. "It'll work again." They positioned the decoy behind cover, then slowly raised it above the wall using a broken metal rod. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. 4, 5. Then a bullet tore through the dummy's forehead. "Got you," Ethan whispered. He lowered the decoy. Hayes asked, "You see him?" "Not yet, but I know where he is." Ethan scanned the ridge carefully, following the bullet trajectory. The shot didn't come from the highest point, but the shadowed incline slightly below it. A smart position, a deadly one. The sniper had discipline, patience, precision. This wasn't just another enemy. This was a trained hunter. Hayes looked at Ethan. "What now?" Ethan's jaw tightened. "Now, we finish what he started." The squad provided covering fire, while Ethan moved through the rubble, low and silent. Every step was a calculation. Every breath measured. This wasn't bravery. This was survival. He reached the edge of the courtyard and signaled Hayes. Hayes threw a smoke grenade, masking Ethan's movement. Ethan climbed through debris, scaling the incline toward the ridge, inch by inch. Dust coated his hands. Rocks shifted beneath his boots. His heart thudded, steady but strong. Halfway up, he heard a sound, the faint metallic click of a rifle bolt. He froze. The sound came again. The sniper was adjusting his position. Ethan crawled forward slowly, carefully. The ridge above him narrowed into a small plateau. This was where the shooter had been waiting. He reached the edge, lifted his scope just enough to see. A flash of fabric, a breath of movement. Not far now, Ethan whispered. Almost. He moved forward. A shot exploded past him, so close he felt the air break against his cheek. He ducked behind a rock. The sniper had repositioned. He was tracking Ethan. This wasn't random warfare anymore. This was personal. Ethan steadied his breathing. He whispered to himself, "Lily, I'm not dying here." Then he moved. A burst of speed. A slide behind another rock. Another shot passing through the dust where his head had been seconds earlier. He reached the last stretch of ground between him and the plan. Sniper's nest. A few feet. Just a few feet. He waited for the next shot, and it came. The sniper was out of rounds. Ethan pushed forward. He reached the nest. The sniper turned a hooded figure, face hidden by cloth, eyes sharp, calculating. Ethan's rifle was already raised. "Drop it," Ethan ordered. The sniper didn't speak, didn't move, didn't surrender. He simply stared at Ethan with eyes full of something Ethan didn't expect. Not fear, not hatred, but recognition, as if he'd been waiting for Ethan all along. Before Ethan could speak, the sniper lunged for a hidden sidearm. Ethan fired. The shot echoed across the valley, bouncing between the rocks, breaking the silence at last. The sniper collapsed. Ethan stood there, chest heaving. Relief and regret mixing in equal measure. War wasn't about victory. It was about survival. And every survival carried a wound. Hayes' voice crackled through the radio. "Sarge, you alive?" Ethan exhaled shakily. "Yeah, I'm alive." He looked at the fallen sniper, the one shadow that had followed them since arrival. And for a moment, he wondered what story that soldier carried, who they left behind, who they loved, who was waiting for them. Ethan climbed back down, his legs aching, his mind heavy. When he reunited with his squad, Daniels ran to him. "Sir, I thought you." "I'm fine," Ethan said, though his voice betrayed exhaustion. Hayes clapped his shoulder. "Hell of a fight, Sergeant." Ethan nodded. But inside, something felt different. Something had changed. Not because of the sniper, but because moments like that, moments when death felt close enough to touch, reminded him of everything Lily feared. He reached into his pocket, pulled out the envelope. He opened it. Inside was a small handwritten note, just 6 words. But those 6 words shattered him. Come home, not just survive. He closed his eyes, absorbing them like oxygen. For the first time on this deployment, Ethan felt the weight of what survival truly meant. not just for him, but for her. Part 5, final part, will bring everything together: the climax, the cost, the return, and the emotional ending that connects back to Lily, Ethan, and the promise between them. Say, create Part 5 when you're ready. The ride back to base felt longer than any battle Ethan had ever survived. The armored vehicle rattled across the broken terrain, dust swirling outside the narrow windows. The squad sat silently, exhaustion settling over them like an unspoken truth. Daniels leaned his head back with his eyes closed. Hayes stared at the floor, lost in his own thoughts. But Ethan stared at the torn envelope in his hand. Come home, not just survive. 6 words, 6 simple words, and yet those words carried the weight of everything he had left behind. They carried Lily's fear, her love, her hope, her trembling voice the night before he left. He folded the paper gently and tucked it back into his chest pocket, the place closest to his heart, the place where he kept the things he fought for. When they reached the base, the sun was sinking into the horizon like a dying flame. Soldiers moved in quiet patterns. Each man carrying the invisible burden of another day survived. Survived, but not lived. Ethan stepped out of the vehicle. His legs were heavy. His shoulders strained beneath the weight of his gear. But what weighed on him more was everything that had happened on that ridge. The sniper, the silence, the moment where life and death had narrowed to a single breath. Hayes walked beside him. You good, Sarge? Ethan nodded. Yeah. You don't look it. Ethan forced a thin smile. Never do. Hayes smirked as they walked. You want to talk? No. Then I'll shut up, Hayes said. But he stayed beside him anyway because sometimes silence is the loudest form of support. That night, Ethan lay in his cot, staring at the metal ceiling. Normally, exhaustion would have pulled him into sleep. But tonight, sleep didn't come. Instead came memories vivid, relentless. The sniper's eyes staring back at him. Lily's tear-filled whisper at the airport. The smell of smoke. The breaking sound of gunfire. The pounding of his own heart. He closed his eyes, rubbing his face with a shaking hand. He didn't fear death. Soldiers rarely did after enough years. He feared something far heavier, not returning whole. Not returning the man Lily believed he still was. Not returning at all. The next morning, Ethan was assigned to a reconnaissance patrol, a simple sweep near the southern perimeter. Low risk. Standard procedure. The kind of mission commanders gave to soldiers who were still carrying yesterday on their shoulders. Hayes walked beside him. You sleep at all? No. Didn't think so. They continued forward, boots crunching in the sand. Daniels jogged up beside them. Think we'll see more snipers, Sarge? No, Ethan said firmly. Yesterday was yesterday. But deep inside, he wasn't convinced. The desert didn't forget so easily. And neither did war. Hours passed. The wind picked up. Dust spun in thin spirals. Ethan's eyes scanned every ridge, every shadow, every unnatural shape on the horizon. The enemy could be anyone, anywhere, any shape. Even the silence made him flinch. They reached an old supply outpost half buried in drifting sand. Metal panels creaked. Empty water barrels rolled in the wind. A lone radio antenna still stood, rusted but tall. Daniels checked the perimeter. Clear. Ethan stepped inside the outpost, the stale smell of dust and forgotten battles filling the air. Hayes joined him. This place feels wrong. Everything feels wrong, Ethan muttered. Because of yesterday? Because of everything. Hayes wanted to say something comforting, something brotherly, but he didn't. Because he understood Ethan in ways words couldn't. They had seen too many things words couldn't fix. As they prepared to move back, a distant sound echoed through the wind. A single shot. Ethan froze. Daniels turned. Was that sniper? Ethan whispered. Another shot. This one closer. Hayes grabbed his rifle. Positions. The squad dove behind the collapsed wall of the outpost. Daniels shouted, "We're pinned again?" Ethan scanned the dunes. His heartbeat hammered. His breath tightened. Not again. Not today. Not when Lily had begged him to come home. Hayes shouted over the wind, "Ethan, where is he?" Ethan tried to steady his vision, tried to trace the echo, but something in him cracked. The ridge, the silence, the eyes of the last sniper. It all came crashing in. His hands trembled. His grip slipped. Hayes looked at him sharply. "Ethan, focus." Another shot slammed into the wall behind them. Ethan squeezed his eyes shut. He wasn't afraid of dying. He was afraid of freezing. And for the first time in years, Ethan froze. Hayes grabbed Ethan's vest and shook him. "Hey, look at me." Ethan's eyes snapped open. "Listen to me," Hayes growled. "You're not up there anymore. You're here. With us. With your squad. We need you. Now breathe." Ethan inhaled sharply. Then again. Then once more. The world steadied. Hayes pointed to a dune 60 meters ahead. "There. He's repositioning." Daniels asked. "Do we engage?" Ethan wiped sweat from his forehead. "No." He pulled out something from his pocket. Not a decoy, not a weapon. Lily's letter. Her handwriting trembling across the page. Hayes whispered, "Ethan." Ethan stared at the words, "Come home. Not just survive." He closed his eyes. When he opened them again, the fog inside him had lifted. He was back, focused, sharp, alive. He stood slowly. "Hayes, smoke on my mark." Hayes nodded. "Ready." "Daniels, flank left." "Yes, sir." "For Lily," Ethan whispered to himself. "For every soldier who didn't make it home." He raised his rifle. "Mark!" Hayes threw smoke. Daniels sprinted wide. Ethan broke cover, moving with precision and patience. The same patience the enemy sniper thought he owned. Through the smoke, Ethan saw a flicker of movement, then the faintest glint of metal. "There you are." He steadied his breathing. 1, 2, 3. He fired. The distant silhouette collapsed into the sand. Hayes exhaled. "Jesus, you got him." Ethan didn't answer. He just stared at the falling dust where the enemy had been seconds before. When they reached the downed sniper, Ethan paused. He was young, too young, barely older than a kid. Hayes whispered, "We did what we had to." Ethan nodded. But it didn't make it easier. War didn't take lives. It collected them, piece by piece. That night back at base, Ethan sat alone under the fading sunset. The sky burned orange and red colors that reminded him of everything he had lost and everything he still fought for. Hayes approached quietly. "Got mail today." He handed Ethan a fresh envelope. "From Lily." Ethan's chest tightened. Hayes smiled. "She writes you more than anyone I know. She worries more than anyone I know," Ethan said softly. Hayes patted his shoulder. "Means she cares. Means someone's waiting." He walked away, leaving Ethan alone with the sunset and the letter. Ethan opened it slowly. Lily's handwriting danced across the page. "Ethan, I know you feel alone out there. I know you feel the weight of every choice. But hear me. You're still the same man I love. You're still brave. You're still human. You're still worth coming home. Please, don't just survive the war. Survive yourself. Come back to me." Ethan read it again, and again, and again. Each line stitched another piece of him back together. He folded the letter, placed it next to the first one, and tucked them both over his heart, the place where he kept his purpose. Weeks passed. Ethan's squad completed their final mission. Their deployment ended. They boarded the aircraft. For the first time in months, Ethan felt something strange. Relief. As the plane lifted off, Hayes nudged him. "You ready to go home?" Ethan looked out the window at the fading desert. "Yeah," he whispered. "This time, I think I am." Hours later, the plane landed on home soil. When Ethan stepped onto the runway, his breath caught. Lily stood there, her hands over her mouth, her eyes already filled with tears, her entire body trembling. Ethan walked toward her slowly, like a man stepping out of a long, dark tunnel. When she reached him, she threw her arms around him and broke down completely, sobbing into his uniform, her hands clinging tightly to his back. "You came home," she whispered against his chest. Ethan held her close. "I didn't just survive, Lily. I came home." She leaned back, cupping his face, her own streaked with tears. "Don't ever scare me like that again." "I'll try," he said, kissing her forehead gently. "For you, I'll try." That night, Ethan lay in his own bed for the first time in months. Lily slept curled against him, her hand resting on his chest right where the letters were tucked. His heart beat beneath her palm, soft, steady, alive. Outside, the world was peaceful. No gunfire, no silence, no shadows, just life. The kind he had almost forgotten how to feel. Ethan whispered into the darkness, "I'm home." And for the first time in a long time, he believed it.